say thank you on behalf of the school board and their parents for the big guys for reminding them for the training for Webster. You had a great run. We really appreciate everything you've done for our football program. I know you have a lot of personal time and playing in the program. So happy about it. I think that all the stuff and the working time for coaching position and the coaching staff. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. Carried. Motion to approve the resignation of Eric Coyne as teaching coach and assistant. Thank you, Larry. Second. Thank you, Mark. Discussion. I have a letter here from Eric Coyne. This is my letter of resignation from teaching and coaching in the United States. I've tried to write this letter multiple times, trying to put all the correct together. At the end of the day, all I can say is thank you to Dr. Block, Mr. Case, and the school board for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the Bearcat family. And I cannot express to you enough how grateful I am to have had this opportunity the last 2 years. To all the students and athletes, you will all be greatly missed, and thank you for all the lifelong memories I will cherish forever. My only hope is that I left everything that I was a part of in a better place than I got it. Thank you again for everything. Once a Bearcat, always a Bearcat. Go Cats, Eric Coyne. This, I think, has been general knowledge within the community. I believe Eric announced this to his girls' basketball team before Christmas or somewhere around right during Christmas break. Eric, I believe, is going to be moving back down into the Sioux Falls area where his family is. And Eric's done a fantastic job for us. We're very happy to have Eric come on board and be willing to take on teaching. And not only that, be willing to coach. I'm just going to say it right now, the community, coaching, finding coaches is hard. We've been very lucky with many of the coaches we've had in the past, but as a community and as a school, we put a lot of pressure on these men and women that coach up good. And we're going to work hard to try to find individuals to replace them, but I hope the community can have patience with us because it's not easy. Eric's done a great job. He will be missed. He's an alumni that came back and he's done a nice work for us. So with that being said, any other comments on?
I've listened to you read a lot of letters of resignation, and that may be the first one where they called out just thanks the students and the athletes. I think that says a lot on there. I agree. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye. All same sign. Motion carries. Motion to accept the resignation of Morgan Hewer as FCS Facts teacher and FCCLA advisor. So moved. Thank you, Larry. Second? Thank you, Aaron. Discussion. I have a letter here from Morgan Hewer. Dr. Block and the Webster Area School Board. Please accept this letter as my formal notice of resignation from the position of the 7 through 12 Family and Consumer Science teacher and the FCCLA advisor at the Webster Area School District. My last day of work will be May 29th, or the last day of the spring semester, pending snow days, to fulfill my 2022-2023 contract. I like her humor. I wish to thank you all for my time at Webster area for the last 5 years. It has been an honor to serve as a Bearcat and grow as an individual inside and outside of the classroom. I have enjoyed assisting in the conversation and process of the new CTE building and the new opportunities to come. It is not an easy decision to make, but with a growing family, we have discussed this to be the best option at this time. I wish you nothing but the best in the growth of the CTE programs and the school as a whole. If you have any questions or require more information, you can reach me by email at her email address. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Morgan Hewlett. You know, we, again, just want to say thank you to Morgan. I can't tell you how many times in the community from, I almost said athletes, but our students and parents, I've heard very good things about Morgan and the job she has done with our FACS program, with the FCCLA. I think that we have some outstanding opportunities when we get the new CTE wing put together and what the FACS program will have for equipment just with the grant we received. She will be missed, and I thank her for the 5 years. We were very lucky to have her. Any other comments?
So I can tell you that this was not an easy decision for her. Morgan has actually stayed here longer than I expected her to. When we hired her, she was living in Aberdeen and she remained there. And so I anticipated that when she became, a mom, that it would be more difficult. She shared with me that they actually made considerations of moving to Webster, looking at housing, what his job would entail if he was here. They've considered staying in Aberdeen, and that's what they're going to do for the time being. But I think eventually they want to get closer to their home area, which is the Gettysburg area. So they'll probably end up, I would guess, in the Pierre area or something like that. When you talk about commitment, she's an integral part of putting together some nice plans for our FACS program, and now she's unfortunately not going to be able to enjoy that. But she's an extremely organized person. I think Lori would attest to, she has served as our consortium director for our Perkins funding, and she's probably one of the best that we have had in that position for the schools that we have in our consortium. So we'll definitely miss her. She's done a great job. She's that full-fledged teacher all the way around. We do need to discuss a little bit about the consortium, and I can bring that up in my report. So,
Well, just before we move on from this, I think it's just important to let our constituents know, let the students know, we work hard on trying to find the right individuals to fill all of these positions. This is not something that is easy, and it's getting harder and harder every year. Dr. Block and Mr. Case will tell us that, 10, 15 years ago, for an elementary teacher position, it was not uncommon to have how many applications, Craig?
Oh, boy, 40, 50
And
maybe?
today?
Sometimes, yeah.
And
Today, yeah, 15, 10 if we're lucky.
now, you're 20% of what you used to be just 10 years ago. Jim, many of the positions that you used to even get 4 or 5, we get none, or
in
one.
some cases, unfortunately, yes.
We are having a hard time. We are hoping that we can advertise. I appreciate these gentlemen getting in, their coaching, Mr. Coyne, Mr. Christensen, so we can get it out to the colleges. Maybe there is somebody out there that's looking for a football coaching position and a head basketball position, and this would be enticing, and we want to be ahead of the curve. At the same time, our athletic director, Nathan Bloom, has told me that he is working on trying to reach out to the contacts that he has. I know that Dr. Block and Mr. Case do the same thing. We're not above listening to constructive comments. Maybe somebody in the community has a cousin or a niece or a nephew that's graduating and has a good friend that is looking for these type of things. I hope they will let them know. We've got a great community, and we're going to work hard to fill these positions. But at the same time, we also have to recognize that it's going to be hard. It's not going to be something that will be easily accomplished. So with any further discussion, all in favor on Morgan's resignation, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Soccer program. Motion to discuss the soccer program.
So move.
Thank you, Joel. Second? Thank you, Aaron. Discussion. I know that our athletic director, Nathan Bloom, texted me today, said that he had some things here tonight. He was unable to make it, but he would provide us all a memo for his consideration on where he believes we should go with the soccer program. And so, with that being said, I'll give you guys time to review it if you haven't had a chance, or I can even just read it.
I haven't had a chance to review it, so I gotta just run through it here.
I read it, I guess. I agree with the points he's made.
So, just to summarize for the public, Mr. Bloom has put together his recommendation. His recommendation is as follows. After the request was made to look into the possible addition of the sport of soccer for Webster Area School, my recommendation would be to disapprove this action for the following reasons. Number one, of the 23 girls who showed interest, 12 would be graduated within 2 years of the program's start, and I would question whether we would get enough interest from the upcoming classes to compensate for those losses. Number two, startup costs for a program such as soccer, when considering equipment, travel, uniforms, coaching, field maintenance, etc., would likely exceed $20,000, with at least $15,000 needed to annual budget in the following years. Number three, creating a schedule will be difficult due to the proximity of the competition. Nearly all of the closest teams play in the Sioux Falls area or further, with our closest bus trip being over 2 hours one way. Number four, the idea of adding soccer is a concern to our fall coaches because of the time and energy needed to participate in multiple sports. Participation numbers are in decline nationwide, and Webster area is no different. Adding yet another program could be detrimental to the other established programs occurring at the same time. 5. The fall participation numbers are exactly the same amongst the genders in 4 activities: cheerleading, football, volleyball, and cross country. The participation numbers break down as follows. Between football and cross country for the boys, there's 35 boys in football, 11 in cross country for a total of 46. In volleyball, there's 31 girls, 9 in cheer, 6 in cross country, none in football, though they can be in football, for giving us exactly the same number of 46. I appreciate the work that the young ladies did in presenting and pursuing this matter. I would encourage these students to pursue adding soccer as a club sport, and I would be willing to assist in finding teams to compete with and working out a schedule if they went that route. Respectfully submitted, Nathan Bloom, Webster Area Athletic Director. Comments?
Well put.
Yeah, very well put. I mean, I guess I'm stuck on 2 and 3. The startup costs, we're already, very budget conscious, and number 3, where are we gonna find these teams? Roten and Sioux Falls. I know what it's like traveling for wrestling and, going to the costs that are associated with it. And then pretty soon, if we're going to Sioux Falls for a jamboree, or we're gonna stay overnight, and we're buying hotel rooms, and it's just gonna keep going and going.
Well, Groton had a boys soccer, which they dropped.
Correct.
And if the girls soccer, I don't know if that's gonna stay, but it seems to be going the other way instead of growing the soccer, so it's gotta start somewhere, I understand that, but still, it's a weekend sport, Sioux Falls, whatever. It's quite a distance for the budget, I think he's figured a little low there.
Okay. Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all those same things, and also like his advice to start it as a club sport. If they could get it to succeed in that and have have that go for a couple of years, come back and visit us.
Relook at it. I agree.
I agree with that.
Program going.
I do agree with that. Let's start it as a club sport and support them in starting as a club sport and see where it goes. I do like that idea. Marty, what do you think?
I don't know, I was thinking about, the number of students, we're looking at, 12 would be graduating within the next 2 years. And some of those are going to be doing potentially 2 sports. And you start taking a full day of school and then doing 1 sport and then doing another sport and then homework on top of that. And, are we setting students up for something that might be beyond their abilities, or making them or asking them to do things that might actually be detrimental for them? I think 2 sports at one time. Granted, if, I can maybe see, like in the, like golf and football, when you're going and playing a few rounds of golf for practice on weekends, that I don't really have too much of an issue with. But this is an organized sport that you can't do individually. They got to practice together. And would there ever be times where, if they're going to practice, would soccer ever have to be after school because it's got to be outside? And then something else, in other sports, say volleyball's got to go after soccer because of length of day? I don't know that answer, but I agree with Nathan's comments.
Well, I appreciate the insight too. I mean, we're here for school, number one. And you do think about that, participating in 2 sports. I think kids have a hard enough time participating in 1 sport, during the school year and keeping up their grades. And if they're taking a rigorous course schedule, that we hope a lot of them are. So, that being said, all in favor of the recommendation, of accepting the recommendation of Mr. Bloom, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda, motion to approve volunteer coaches for track: Kevin Duenwald, Aaron Keller, and Scott Gangle.
So move.
Thank you, Larry. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion.
That's 3 volunteers. What did we have in the past?
It varies every year. Last year, I believe we had 4,
Okay,
but the 3 that we are approving tonight, they have been consistent for the last few years.
Do the other sports have volunteer coaches as well?
Some do, and it's usually just an annual thing, like some years we have 3 or 4 in one sport, and some years we don't have any, so.
Brandy's the head coach. Who's the assistants in that? Adam?
Jordan Bauer,
Okay. I was going to say, you're asking me a question. I
Cheryl
should know, but-
McCreary,
Cheryl
Pardon?
and Amy.
McCreary, and
For junior high
Knudsen.
and
Cheryl and Amy.
Knudsen.
Yep.
Wrestling usually has volunteers, don't they?
Yep.
And we just approved Bo for boys basketball, Bo Freeze,
Oh,
last
right.
meeting.
Wrestling and track are usually the sports that have the most volunteer coaches.
Have we addressed the issues in the past with the performance of some of these track volunteer coaches? We've had the complaints. Have they been addressed?
we have a new AD, so. Did Nathan address? He's,
I'm not sure if Nathan is fully aware of any
Well,
concerns or,
these volunteers have gone across Nathan's desk, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
he submitted those names.
Okay, that's my question, I guess.
I don't have a problem if we want, we're gonna be meeting, what's our next meeting, February 13? Unless it says Happy Valentine's Day like a school board meeting the day before. So, if we want to table this till February, we're still in the track, we're still in basketball season and wrestling season. We're not in track. If you want to have a conversation with Mr. Bloom or other individuals, the coaches or something like that, I don't have a problem tabling this, if that's somewhere that you'd like to consider it.
I think if our AD submitted them, we should act on it.
I think though that I'm okay with actually having a conversation with him on this one. If he wants to, if Marty, you have questions, or Joel, or Aaron, I don't know where you're at on it. Do you want to have a conversation? We can table this. I don't think that there's any crisis in us waiting one more month.
I would make a motion then to table.
Okay,
Second.
all right, I have a motion to table and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Motion to approve the vision/mission statement revision.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second? Thank you, Aaron. Discussion.
So we had a committee that was part of our school improvement process in the spring, so we could prepare for our accreditation this year. That committee reviewed it. This has been reviewed a couple of times. I think this particular vision and mission statement was probably developed in 2004, 2008, and then we reviewed it in 2009. It's about every 3 to 4 years we review it. There have not been many changes the last couple of reviews, I would say, and there's not significant changes with this. The committee that met, however, felt it was a little bit more important to put more bullets below to kind of be a little more precise about what we have for expectations in our vision and mission. And so those are the changes. It's nothing significant. If you compare word for word, you'll see a good portion of it is very, very similar. It's just they included a couple of items, and they wanted them as bulleted items just to kind of set them aside or set them apart a little bit more. This will be a part of our school improvement plan, as well as everywhere you see anything associated with our school district, the vision and mission statements are typically included.
I was gonna ask that, where are these posted? I mean, are they posted within the building, or are they just in the?
You'll see at the entrances, I think at each of the entrances, we have kind of a laminated sign of each of them. It's listed on the top, the front page of all of our handbooks. It's on our website.
Okay.
So I think we have one banner, but I'm not sure where we hang that. It might be in the Armory, actually. Or maybe there was one and that's been revised. I thought we had a banner. So there's the vision and the mission statement. The vision is a little bit shorter, I believe. That one's, something you can place on a banner. The other one's a little bit longer, so. So I'm just proposing it as an upgrade with a committee that reviewed it, and unless you had questions or concerns or even suggestions for something that we might want to include that maybe is missing. And this all kind of comes out of what we gather in our surveys to students, staff, parents.
I think it's good, and I think the more visible it is, the better. People have a chance, students, staff, everybody they get to see it,
In vision and mission statements, if you review any other districts, you will find that they're very similar in the sense that we need to prepare students for an ever-changing world, or to be able to cope and survive in a world that does change, and so
By the second.
it has those sort of statements.
Yeah.
I'm good. I think it's concise. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, superintendent report, Dr. Block.
I actually have a few things that I didn't have on there, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. Legislative topics, I really don't have anything to discuss at this particular moment. I know Martin will bring one up during, I think he will, during the NESC. 5% was proposed by Governor Nome for the funding to education. We'll see where that goes. Legislature started today. Legislature start today?
I don't know.
Yesterday was
I think it was yesterday was
the
the first
State of the
Um,
State speech.
And I can tell you that I didn't have any correspondence from anybody, from our lobbyists or anything like that yesterday or today, so it's very, very early in the process. We have some professional development that we have done and some that we hope to do in the future. I'm not sure if you are all familiar with it's called naloxone. That basically is, I'm not going to, Narcan. Narcan is the medication that you use for anybody that has accidental or not accidental overdose of is it amphetamines or?
Fentanyl right now. is big
Fentanyl,
one-
it's for
big one
fentanyl.
right now.
Okay. So, the school districts can get this, doses of this to assist if there's an accidental overdose. In order to do that, though, we have to have some training. So what we did is we chose to have our 7 through 12, or did we do 6 through 12? Middle school, high school training. All of our teachers were trained on this, and we didn't want to train them so that they would be actually administering it. We wanted them to know, what does it look like on the faces of students? What does it look like if a student collapses? We need to know the difference between some other medical condition and what it might be for an accidental overdose. And so the doses will be stored in the nurse's station. Some have questioned, well, should it be all the way in the elementary if it might be a high school student? We can get it in a quick manner. Obviously time is important, but we can get it in a quick manner, and it needs to be in a secure place, locked, and cannot be accessible. And so we figure that right now that's the best location. Perhaps when we have a new office area, and there might be a location that we could do it, we could store it here and in the elementary, so we have it in both areas. So our teachers have been trained on this, and again, it is really very, very simple to administer. It's actually a nasal spray, and so it's not difficult to do it. It's just a matter of identifying the signs and symptoms and knowing what you're doing with that particular type of a situation. It doesn't hurt the person if they aren't having an overdose, an accidental overdose, and you administer it. It's not going to hurt them. They will be fine. So it's kind of a good situation to have something like this just in case. The reality is, folks, and you may not know this, it's been several years, but we did have a slight overdose with a student on the first day of school one year. It's been several years, but this student was under the influence of some drugs on the first day of school.
Yeah, that was a scary situation.
Yeah. So.
Well, that Narcan issue, I think, Jim, I've seen now where they have, actually containers, I don't know if you've seen this, that you can put in public buildings that are, break the glass for the Narcan. I know those are available, and I think that is something that we should look at getting, because it does need to be, it has to be readily available, it has to be secure, but if we can get one of those, the glass containers where it's broken, I don't want it to...
Like a Narcan dispenser
Yes,
storage thing?
Yep, absolutely. I know they're actually, I've seen them where they're actually putting them in one of the states, like maybe Texas, or in all of their schools. But they're definitely out there. And number two, this does happen. I mean, I know of people that have had the Narcan administered. I see it. I know our South Dakota Highway Patrol troopers out here, unfortunately, I think if you were to ask them, have administered it more than, a few times. And because fentanyl is something that we should be concerned about in northeast South Dakota. It is in the area. People trade one of those for an iPhone charger. I'm not joking. I mean, that's how easily this stuff is exchanged. And it is bad, and it'll kill you. I know of cases where people have been on the side of the road, and a good concerned citizen has called it in, and, the troopers have arrived and thought it was somebody just parked sleeping around. Well, no, they were overdosing, and luckily they were able to save the guy's life. I think we should have it. I think it should be, if we could find those type of dispensaries, it should be in a couple places within the school that is within reach. And, first of all, just call the cops. Again, our law enforcement does have access to this, and they are trained to administer it, and they can get here. You'd be amazed how quickly, between the game fish and parks, the city police, the highway patrol, the sheriff's office in Webster. We're very lucky. So I appreciate you doing that, Jim.
This is actually provided by the Department of Health through South Dakota.
Correct.
So it is a program specifically for schools, and so that's kind of how it came about. I will also mention that this is just yet another thing that gets added to the responsibilities of anybody that's in the medical field, including our school nurse. It just seems like year after year, there's just additional things that we are taking care of, from diabetic students to Narcan She's going to do the AED and the CPR training for our staff again this spring. We don't do it every single year. It's been a couple years since we've done that, but it's nice to get a refresher. And as you know, if you watch football, you know that the AEDs and CPR is obviously a very, very important thing, even in the sport of football. So those
Which makes
those
me
are
ask
things.
Jim, do we have an AED at our football field right now?
We have a portable AED that we take down there, and then
So
we have
even
an
during
AED.
practice,
Pardon?
even during practice we take it?
I believe that they do take it down there,
I
yes.
think, because we have
I
a
think,
portable one.
I think, I don't know that it can freeze, but I think it's stored in the concession stand when there's practice and games. And then if it can't be stored down there, then it's a portable one that travels.
I was asked that question by somebody, because, I mean, obviously, you know, it's nice during the games, we have the ambulance. They can help us with that. But during practice, if they could just make sure that next year that would be something that.
I will
obviously,
confirm
from
that.
Junior high all the way through.
Yep.
Even you won't wonder even, there's nothing wrong, I mean, maybe we need to figure out some way to work with Kiwanis with the concession stand, because, you know, dogs football's down there. You know.
We should have them down there.
Yeah.
Okay. The last one that I have regarding professional development is ALICE, and I don't know the acronym, but ALICE is, it stands for an acronym for school safety. We have had active shooter trainings, we've had lockdown trainings. This is kind of a combination of that. The reason that I mention this is the state has a program in which they are providing support, training, and ongoing training. That's one of the downfalls that we've had with the training in previous years is when we had the active shooter come in, the guy came from Omaha. Well, it's difficult to come or have him come every single year. It gets to be redundant for the teachers that have been through it because it's pretty intense training, and then it's expensive to bring it for one or two teachers. And it's also very difficult to get one or two teachers someplace in South Dakota where that training exists. I'm more interested in a program that we can see as an ongoing professional development that's going to be more readily accessible for us and something that we can use for better follow-up on an annual basis. And so the state has this training in place. It includes both the active shooter where you have the fight or flight type thing, or if you need to lock down. It will provide training so that the teachers can make decisions. Unfortunately, they would have to make those decisions in their moment to determine if they're going to stay in the room or if they're going to get out of their room. So we will be doing something with this within the next school year. And I hope, because it's within our state Department of Ed, that we will continue to do it. It's actually the Department of Ed and Homeland Security Office, so we'll be doing some of that. I want to bring up the Perkins Consortium at this time. Laura, do you know how many schools are in our consortium, just kind of offhand?
Yes, I think it's,
Is it close to 10?
yeah, it's 8 or 9.
So we belong to a Perkins Consortium, and Morgan Hewer, our fax teacher, was actually kind of the director and manager of that consortium. She did a fantastic job for that. The two of us, Lori and myself, have had this discussion since her resignation was submitted. We're a little bit concerned about us as a school maintaining that. I'm not sure if anybody on our staff is interested. I'm not sure if anybody on our staff is as organized as Morgan is, and that's no offense to those other folks, as well as the time that it commits. So for us, we would like to turn over the school of record for the, is that what you call it, or?
Yeah.
The school of record for the consortium, that is currently the Webster Area School District. We'd like to either turn that over to another district within our consortium or consider going to a different consortium. Now, I have had conversation with some folks from the CTE office at the state level, and there are two consortiums that are very large within South Dakota. One that is basically managed out of Western Dakota Tech, and the other out of Southeast Tech. From what I've seen from the information that's been provided to me, I'm going to say that I'm, as an administrator, probably leaning more towards doing something with Southeast Tech because it could represent us. It's not too far for us to travel to do meetings. What I like about it, from what I've seen, is that it actually focuses more on professional development for our Perkins funds versus us trying to find uses for the money with equipment, different things like that. And I don't know what is allowable and not, so I might be misspeaking when I say equipment in the first place.
We have like, we've been doing it for the last 7 or 8 years. It started with Amy Miller and it's Morgan. And we have like a $40,000 budget, and it is federal dollars, so there's a lot of accountability to it. And I just think with Morgan moving on, it's a lot for my office. I think another school needs to take a turn, or like Mr. Box said, rejoin another.
Yeah, and the take a turn, that's just putting it mildly. Sometimes it's like, it's your turn, somebody else is gonna do it, that's how bad it can get. We've been through different experiences. We've been in a consortium where it's us, Millbank, Britain, where there's only like 4 or 5. And literally, early in my career here in Webster, they basically just said, we're on rotation. Superintendent of this school is going to do it this year, and then superintendent this, and so it was kind of like nobody really wanted to do it. And it is a fair amount of work.
And the thing is, Morgan has done a great job. She is very organized, but it's over a $40,000 budget each year. You're dealing with 8 or 9 schools. All of that funding has to run through us. So they submit to her what they want to purchase, all the receipts come here, we in turn pay, we have to request reimbursement from the state. There's a lot of accountability, so it's just.
Do you know the other schools in the consortium? Can you just name a few of them?
Redfield, Hitchcock, Tulare, Woolsey, Washington, Dolan, Waubee, Webster, Clark. I'm running out of schools.
Clear Lake.
No,
Groton is not. Britain is not.
Redfield,
Is Langford?
no, Redfield. Yeah, I think there's one more.
Well, good for Redfield. We've done it for 8 years. They're a bigger school than us. I'm sure they have the capacity to do it.
Of the names you just rattled off, and I'm kind of speaking out of school here, I haven't heard a school named when I think of big-time CTE programs. So
And
that's
I was-
telling me, let's get down with a bow tack.
Well, that's a good point.
And let's get with people that's what they do.
Right. And you know, then the audits, when there's an audit, it's on us because all of the paperwork is here, so.
So I do have a request, and my request is this. I learned from the state that we have to make this decision by the end of January, last week of January. And I'm like, really? Why does the timing have to be like that? But that's the timing, it's just their annual deadline date that they have. So my request is, will you provide me the authority to make a decision as to whether we stay in our consortium if there is a quality person that's in place? I'm not in favor of that right now, I'm telling you. My push is to go to Southeast Tech and join a larger consortium.
So I would tell you that I got it. Right now, Joel, you're saying not our consortium. That's number 3 option. First option is Southeast Tech, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at, Marty?
What's the finances with, I mean, is there expenses with each, or?
No, basically what happens is there's like a pool of money. We as a school district, I don't know how they calculate it, but we as a school district, if we were completely on our own, would get a certain amount of Perkins funds. You pool that money together, and then there are ways to share that money and utilize it in a more efficient and.
But does it cost, is it any?
No cost to us.
Expense to
No.
us to join out Southeast Tech versus
My
the group
time.
that?
If we keep it and we are the school of record, it's her time.
Right, so,
Yeah.
No, but you're saying if we join Southeast Tech, is there a cost to us?
No.
yes,
There
no,
should
so,
not be,
Okay.
because there's
So-
no cost to the other schools for us to do it.
no.
Okay.
Do the other schools pay for
No.
you, you know?
I think it's Southeast Tech.
Is there leftover monies? What happens to that?
What's that?
What happens to leftover monies that the other schools don't use?
Morgan, like I said, Morgan is top notch, she's done a great job, and so we try to get all of our purchases in by like January or February, and then whatever has not been spent, we amend the budget, and we send it out to those schools again, and she tells them this is what funds we have left if you wanna request something else. And like I said, it's over $40,000, and so each school's had like professional development, it's
Yeah.
equipment. So each year the funds are spent.
Does each school get an equal slice of that pie, or is it based on number of
No,
students, or?
No, I believe that,
I think it was different.
I think each amount, I don't know how Morgan does that for sure. I believe it's different because I know like what a larger school gets compared to what I reimburse a Wabae is different. And so I don't know if she kind of has a big, I don't know if it's her or the state, or I'm not sure how that money's split up.
But if Wabae doesn't take the money, just for instance.
Yep, then the other school, it can come here and the
Okay,
other
but-
schools can split it up.
And if the money is not claimed, is it sent back or does it stay in the,
Well, we can carry over a certain percentage, but the state wants you to spend it each year because it's federal money, so.
Are you guaranteed a certain, I'm just thinking like what Joel was saying, if we join a group that's heavy in CTE, will that money be in high demand for those other schools? We have a hard time getting our part of it.
So that was one of the questions that I asked, because we want to get our fair share. If we know we would normally get this, we want to get our fair share. And the response that I received is that if I were to contact, and I didn't contact any districts, because I just learned about this yesterday, that the shared services and the shared professional development, the things that they do, the school districts are benefiting from that. There might be a district here and there that's disappointed in thinking that it's perhaps maybe not being split up fairly, but you already have that possibility with how we're doing it right now. But even with our 40,000, I'm not aware of any, I have not had a superintendent contact me in the, 3-4 years that Morgan has been our director of this, and say, geez, you guys are overloading, and Webster seems to be getting this, or so-and-so is getting this, and we're not. I've never once had that issue come up.
We're talking $5,000
Right. So,
out of our $4 million general fund annual budget, 4.2.
Pick sometimes.
I just think you might be putting yourself in a different class of CTE people when you are at a
Yes,
VOTAC,
yes.
and you're gonna learn more.
You might
You're gonna
see
see
some
more
things.
opportunities.
Right.
And it's not necessarily about the money, not about the $4,000 or $5,000. It could be a bigger opportunity there that we're not aware of.
I'm good with the Southeast. Aaron, where are you at? Larry? Southeast it is. And then if the last resort, just find somebody else in the consortium.
thank you.
All right? Anything else, Jim?
Not for that part.
Okay. Principal report. Thank you, Dr. Black. Mr. Case?
We did reschedule the ski trip. The 8th grade ski trip was scheduled for December. However, we had poor weather that day, and then we had a few snow days. So I didn't feel it was right to take the 8th graders out of school again and take them on that ski trip. So we do have it lined up for February 9th to hopefully go, and hopefully we'll have decent weather, but time will tell with that.
We'll go to Sioux Falls and ski if you need to.
Yeah, right, yeah, I was just there, and there's a lot of snow down there. Driver's ed information, the 8th grade, some 7th grade parents have driver's ed, and those in 9 through 12 who haven't taken driver's ed that might want to take driver's ed, I'll get that information out here in the next couple of weeks. Get that registered and get that rolling, and hopefully we don't have any more snow days where we have to push that class back. So,
Okay.
those are the only two things I have.
Thank you, Mr. Case. NESC?
Meeting was very routine. Just went through normal stuff. But then towards the end, she brought up discussion items and then potential legislative session topics. Now, I know it started yesterday or today. So this was as of, 3-4 weeks ago, but there was two main things that I wrote down. One was vouchers. And it's being discussed where they're taking public money and allowing it to be spent and awarded towards private schools. And the other one was the compensatory age, changing it back to 16 from 18. I don't know, how long ago was it changed? 15 years ago, maybe?
Time's going fast, so it probably has been that long.
It's been a
I
while.
I believe I was serving in the capacity of principal only at the time that it changed. And I remember it being a very heated topic and a very difficult topic for us as secondary principals to deal with. I remember it being a challenge.
And I don't know I'm sure it's going to get discussed.
Can you
A lot.
explain the age thing?
Well, it used to be when you hit 16, if you wanted to drop out of school, you could drop out. And then they changed it to you had to stay in school till you were age 18. And as a teacher, you know, you could look at it a couple different ways. One of them you would say, or as an educator, anybody in education, is a 16-year-old really ready to make a decision that could potentially guide the rest of their life? You know, are they old enough to make that decision? But you could also say they've already chosen a lot of paths that are going to take them. You know, if they're thinking about dropping out at age 16, they probably weren't doing real well when they were 14. So there's that. But then when I was teaching, there was kids that were in my classes. I was like, I wish it was 16 because they're a disruption in the classroom, and they'd much rather be off working somewhere than sitting there listening to me talk about protein synthesis. So, you know, you can look at it both sides.
Sure.
Okay, anything else? Questions for NESC? Thanks, Marty. Buildings and grounds.
So I have a few bullet points here, and Larry and Joel, please just chime in. We did have a review meeting yesterday for the construction. Relocation of 3 classes. The 3 classes just south of the library here, it was our research room and the 2 math classes. They are starting to gut those classes now. We have relocated those to a computer lab and the middle school science lab, which won't exist eventually. That will be a hallway. And then we had one auxiliary classroom that we did use for math and some other classes last year. That classroom actually has quite a bit of stuff stored in it, but we basically moved the smallest group of students to that particular room. Things are working. It's not ideal, but things are working. They have their own space, uninterrupted space. So I think it's going to be fine for them. So they're starting the interior demolition. We did have an unplanned fire drill. Was it yesterday or Monday? Monday. And unfortunately, it was due to one of the sensors got hit or it fell through out of the tracks and started dangling. And so we still document that as a fire drill because actually it's more of a realistic fire drill than it is one that we know we're going outside for. A little cold for the kids, but it wasn't awful. And when they're unplanned, unfortunately, they do take longer than a planned because I have to get down the hall, or the custodian, whoever gets there first has to figure out where it's at. I will say that I'm a little disappointed in the manner in which our system is set up, and we do have a pretty old system with parts of our building, and it said it was in the old high school gym. So I went to the wrestling room, and I'm looking for smoke, this, that, any signs of a fire, and it turns out it was in the south classroom down here. I don't know how those are in the same zone, but they are. So when we have situations like that, we have to act quickly in order to find out where it is. And when I say act quickly, first of all, we want to find out if there's a fire, but the second thing is we want to stop the trucks from getting here. And so as soon as we identified that there was no fire, we called and we were able to stop the trucks. So those sensors have since been removed today. They were able to remove them actually today when I put it on test, and the alarms would go off. So exterior walls, as you can see, there's quite a few that are going up. I shouldn't say exterior because really the larger portion of the walls that are down here are corridor walls. They're hallway walls. It looks like exterior walls. So those are going up. And I don't know what else. There's going to be some steel roofing and some stuff that's going to hopefully happen within the next 2 to 3 weeks. If you were to ask anybody that's asked me, are they on schedule? I would say we're about 2 to 3 weeks behind on some of the things that we were hoping to be.
That's where he thought, but
Yeah.
they thought they could pick that time. I
Yep.
don't know.
Yeah.
So-
You know, luckily we dodged the bullet here with this last snowstorm, right?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, our project didn't because the
Down
steel
there.
erection company is from Sioux Falls, and they got snowed in down there, and they were supposed to be up here like right now, the end of this week, to start putting some steel up. So our contractors told us that if they can't be here by Monday, he's going to bring his own crews in and try to get going. So I think Jack had a good plan, and
Well, a couple, 2, 3 weeks, as he said, that's crunch time. I mean, you plan for some weather delay,
Yeah,
and it's there. The pre-stress panels, Patty had pictures of those, they are pouring them,
yeah.
and they expect those still to be here in February. So-
You know, they want to get it enclosed just as bad as we would like to see it enclosed, because then weather doesn't affect them. They can just go to work and finish.
Yeah, it's to the point now where weathers shouldn't affect it. I mean, within days of that not being an issue.
Good.
The next item I have is the camera system replacement and upgrade. And if you recall, I did actually bring some quotes to you. It was probably last fall. And it was basically to give you a heads up that because we're building a new facility, or a portion of our facility, that will have the most recent and upgraded types of cameras. And if we put an IP-type camera system in there, and then have the older system here, you have to have some sort of a conversion thing. And if you recall there, I think there was two different options. If we replaced cameras all the way through the entire building, you would be looking at about $90,000. If we replaced those, or if we put new ones in the new facility and then upgraded what we needed to so the two could talk, you were looking at like 75 or 80. So it's more expensive to do a K through 12, but if you did a K through 12 new system, you would have an upgraded system that hopefully you could have in place and be able to expand without a lot of issues for 10, 15 years. Who knows how long it's going to last when you talk about technology, but the camera systems that we have in place, some of the cameras are still, we've got a couple that are still black and white, don't we? Or are they all color?
They're not black and white,
They're all-
they're just not HD.
Yeah, they're not high definition, and then they're not the IP ones either, so they have to run through a DVR. And so that's pretty actually old stuff now already. And so what I'm saying is we need to put together, we're going to have to call out for bids, because when Lori and I were looking at some of the quotes that we're looking at, they come in too high for us to be able to just simply accept those if we wanted to, so we have to call out for bids. And so I believe what our suggestion is going to be is that we do this, call out for bids to have this work done starting in July, and hopefully get it done by the time school is going in August. The other option is to, if we call for bids sooner, and then we would have to use some fund balance from capital outlay from this year's budget to perhaps maybe get the elementary and middle school done and then finish the high school. I don't know which is the best route to go. I will talk with the person that we have dealt with our camera system to find out if it's realistic to start July 1 and get everything done for anybody that would bid on it.
Could we look at calling for bids? I mean, just saying, what's gonna be the most advantageous, where we're gonna get the best bid? I mean, if they say, hey, we're gonna get you a better bid here in May or June versus waiting till July, I'd rather get the better bid and work within our reserves rather than waiting for July just because it's the beginning of our fiscal year. Does that make sense?
I actually didn't think about
It's
that.
possible, but when you look at the time frame we're in now, because by the time we call for bids and then we get those bids back and we have it at a board meeting, we're gonna be getting close to that June time.
So I mean, and I'd rather have them doing the work in June and just be done before the school year starts. I mean, there's enough things going on. It's just for us to do some accounting. Thanks, Lori, I know you'll be thrilled when we do the supplemental budget.
If it has to do some accounting.
That's where I'm at, Lori. I say we try to get it done sooner rather than later, and unless it's not cost advantageous. If they say, hey, you're better off waiting till July because you're going in too quick, then wait till July.
These cameras would be throughout the facility, right?
Yeah.
And don't we have kids with, I just drawn a blank here, but that are on plans of action? Wouldn't that be a special needs budget? Or you following me here, Lori?
No, we've been
Come on.
so no.
Come on, Lori, work with me here.
I tried. We've already tried this with the special ed department, no.
You picking up what I'm putting
I
down
know
here,
what you're
Tom?
picking up, yep, I'll tell you what, Lloyd, let's give it one more college try, we'll see.
I mean, everywhere we're using them,
But I know there
You
is,
can't purchase
Right.
equipment, because we just went through this when we asked about when we were remodeling the special ed room. The only thing we can purchase out of there is equipment used specifically like in
For their-
IEPs.
Disabilities.
So like, I can't buy desks
Chairs.
for the special ed room out of special ed funds.
Because it doesn't address their specific disability.
unless there's an IEP meeting on that desk in that room. Correct?
we won't win the argument on the cameras. I'm on Team Lori on that one, but hey, let's see if we can find out where we're at with,
Yeah, I don't look good in orange, Joe, so.
you know. We'll work on seeing how quickly we can get it done. If it's not advantageous, money-wise, then I think we can consider it.
We'll at least pose the question
Yeah.
to some companies and see where. I have no idea what kind of an increase you're seeing on an annual basis with, technology, wires. Is it 3%, is it 5%? When does it change? Our fiscal year runs July to whatever, is it December, and we're
I don't know,
already in
because
this year, it's not gonna
I
change
feel
until.
like July is a big month, because it feels like, like when we do technology stuff and we know that it's in the budget, we're like, number one, so it gets here, but also I feel like July is when there are grade increases.
Well, because I think that's when most contractors know that's when most schools start their new budget year. Speaking of that, just any news on where we're at with the sound system in the Armory?
I was just gonna ask that.
Yeah, that was ordered last June, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
Larry, you're going to China one of these days. We're buying
Right.
tickets.
One way.
Speaking of China, the camera systems, I'm gonna mention the Homeland Security grant, and I believe that our security doors are possibly could be a portion of this Homeland Security grant. Cameras are not part of the Homeland Security grant, which really bothered me. I was like, oh, that'd be great. But I will tell you this, that part of the issue that we're running into with some of the technology, it's not sound system, but cameras, you cannot use federal funds to purchase cameras that have been made in China, or the equipment that goes with it. And so our vendors that we work with are all not playing that game, but they're working that situation to make sure that they're not, providing materials in a place that's using certain funds and violating a federal law.
That is a big deal. It just happened in the contracting industry starting January 11th. It's a big deal.
So, I just mentioned the Homeland Security grant. It is due by, last night when I was on, I went on there last night, it said something about February 14th, which I
thought it
don't,
was January 31st.
I still think it's in January. We're gonna continue to work on that, we've got a small committee going, and we're gonna see what we can do. I would love to at least pay for the security door upgrades or replacement. We're not moving a lot, but that security door is actually gonna end up over here, and it'd be nice to have those at least paid for. Even if it's $8,000-$10,000, it's still a grant, so we're gonna try that.
Do we have a plan in place for the intercom system? Or is there-
Yeah, there's actually
Is
the
it-
gentleman that is installing our new intercom system was here today.
Okay.
And I don't know
And that's
when
for
they're gonna
elementary?
start, but they will start in the elementary. So what they're gonna do is start in the elementary and work their way through the middle school, right up until the restrooms or by the entrance. And the reason they're gonna stop there is because the middle school science lab is gonna move to the east in the new corridor. So they plan to start that. You might actually see some pulling of wires and things like that during school,
Okay.
because we have a lot to get done.
Yeah, right now in the elementary, the intercom system is temporarily not working, just to let you know.
So
So we have to do the run method.
run and cell phones for.
Hey, but back to the Armory. Do we know where we're at there?
I will tell you this, that I think Tammy contacts the guy every time somebody says something about it. And I know that when she's there and witnesses it, she's just distraught, because it's on her shoulders. per se, with, trying to get it here, and she's the one that is taking care of ordering it. So she's not happy with the situation. The last that I can report for you is that there was 2 parts that we're waiting for. One of the 2 has arrived, the other has not.
And, the last 2 games, the Armory has not been very full. There's not been that much other noise, and we can't even hear our AD, talking and.
So the speakers are not good, but I will tell you that the voice does make a difference. If you've got a projecting voice and you suck on the microphone, you're probably going to be able to be heard. So it can be done, but a lot of the folks that are using the microphone, they are hearing themselves and they think it sounds fine, but it does not.
I always sound fine to myself.
I was going to say we could have Tom announce, and
Yeah.
even
We don't need the
the
microphone
shoddy
then.
system would still work with. So, the last thing that I have on here is Johnson Controls. Again, this is another thing that I had mentioned previously. When you look at our boilers and you look at the turnover that we've had with our custodial staff and some of the responsibilities that they have, there are pieces and parts of our system that I really think it would be in our best interest to have professionals take care of. And so with that, that's part of the reason that I asked Jay Nelson to come from Johnson Controls, do a walkthrough through our entire building, and come up with some things that we could put together. This is something that's sort of a cafeteria plan. I'm not asking you to approve this tonight. He just shared it with me yesterday before Larry and Joel. I was just a minute or 2 late for that meeting yesterday. We were just finishing going through this. I just received this yesterday morning at 10 a.m. And as you can see that on the second page, the back of the cover, you're looking at about $14,000. And then if you look at all the pieces and parts, it tells you which section you're dealing with and what are the things that they would do in those sections. Again, there are things that we can add and subtract to this if we wish to. But I do want us to look seriously at some sort of a service plan specifically for taking care of these new boilers as we get started in taking care of them and being responsible for them, as well as the old boiler until we have a permanent decision made as to how long that old boiler is going to run, how long we're going to heat that 50s wing, and what we're going to do to address the things that we have to heat, resting room, locker rooms, until those are taken care of. That old boiler, well, we're going to have, we have a custodian that's on staff for only just a couple months, and we're hoping to hire one within the next week or 2. They don't know anything about that boiler. I don't know enough about it, so that's one area I would like to have Johnson Controls or some entity that knows something about boilers come in and take care of. There are many, many filters within this building. Specifically, I will say that the music room, if you've been in the music room, there's a storage area where they keep all of the instruments, and up above is all HVAC system. It's all the filters that filter into the gymnasium are up above, and you almost have to be a contortionist, and in some cases very tall, in some cases very short, in order to get what you need to get those filters in. And then there are filters in the ceiling of the music room that I've been told that the clearance between the ceiling and opening up the area to put the filter in is 4 to 6 inches. It's not a good design. We may have to, at some point, look at redesigning the false ceiling in just that particular area to make it more accessible. If we're paying for it and it takes more time, guess what? We're paying for that time. If we're expecting our custodians to do it and it takes more time, we're paying for their time. So there's just a lot of little things that I think we need to start addressing with professionals outside of our system. And not to spend more money, but just to make sure that we're taking care of some very, very expensive equipment that we hope will last many, many, many years. So I want you to look at it over the next month, and we can discuss this, or maybe look at approving something or a modified version of it next month. You will notice that the dates in there, I think it states the 1st of December. Well, December's already gone, He said he put this stuff together and had hoped to come and visit with me in December, but it didn't get here. So obviously, I would request that those dates would be changed, and if there's some prorating in the amounts, we would certainly expect that.
Can I bring up one other thing?
Sure.
Speaking of boilers and the new project, they did do a final walkthrough on the new boilers that we installed. Travis did. Repairs have been made, and they're fully functional. They've been handed over to us essentially, correct?
Yes, that is my understanding.
Yeah.
And they did replace a pump on the backside of one of the boilers, which is part of warranty, so it was no cost to us.
Yep. But just so the board knows, that part of the project's done and been accepted.
Okay,
Anything else, Larry, that you can remember? That went longer than I planned, I apologize.
Yeah, we're gonna know here in 6 weeks or so.
okay. Anything else on buildings and ground? School improvement plan.
This one, I'm just gonna have to apologize. I had planned to have a document to show to you so that I could have you take it home for the next 2-3 weeks and read it. I will do my best to get a document to you in a timely manner so that you can read it. And when I say a document, Craig, how long is it? Do you know?
I don't know. It's,
I want to say it's pushing 16, 18 pages. And the reason I don't have it complete today, I was going to actually provide an incomplete version, but there's some things that I keep pointing to Mr. Case because they were at training in Sioux Falls, and there's some information that they have gathered that I need to discuss with that committee before I include it in there. And some of that includes the results of our surveys that we did in the spring last year and the results of their surveys that they did this fall. We're going to look for similar things with those surveys to include both commendations for our district and areas of improvement that we want to look at. That will help us determine our goals. And I did not have the time to get that reviewed and put in there for tonight. And so I just figured I'm not going to give you a copy of it that wouldn't be really worthy of seeing. But it is a very, very long document. They seem to be getting longer year after year after year. So,
with that comprehensive needs assessment, like Dr. Block said, we were just down in Sioux Falls on Monday and Tuesday, and the group was working hard. We are taking the data that we received from the walkthrough that the two facilitators, they came and surveyed, and we talked about that at the last meeting. So what we're doing now is we're gathering that information, getting some percentages, and they had documents, so it's pretty much a work day on Monday and Tuesday that the group worked. So we're just formulating it, putting it together. The next date is in end of January, I think. We have a Zoom, and then February we have another work day. So it's a long process, getting all the information, and then we can come back to you and give you the results, and that will be in your school improvement plan also, some of it, not all of it.
and the school improvement plan does need to be approved by the board prior to our accreditation review. I have until, I want to say it's March, our accreditation review is April 18th. We have until March 18th to upload all of the documents that are necessary. And our accreditation review this particular year is a desk audit. So there won't be, like in their case, they had some folks that came and actually did a walkthrough and a visit. And it's good to have outside people come and review. But this particular accreditation review isn't a desk audit. So they will just review whatever I upload, and there's nobody from the state actually coming to our building. And then they will just make recommendations for improvements there.
Okay. I don't think we have anything else, except for executive session. We'll go into executive session, won't take any action after we come out. Next board meeting is Monday, February 13th, we just said? All right. With that being said, motion to move into executive session. Thank you, Aaron. Second, Marty. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks for coming.